Head into the papers now, see what the headlines across Nigerian papers are this morning. And joining me on Skype via Skype is an in-house analyst, Obaniyi Akinwale. Ni, good morning. It's good to have you join us now.
Good morning, Mike. Pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
Great. Now, let's begin with the News Direct newspaper. States will no longer be paid for repairing roads. States will no longer be paid. That's what the federal government is saying. Rivers, others get 148 billion naira on federal government roads repair. Okay. From News Direct, let's go to Blueprint. Senate queries CBN over unremitted $3.3 billion. And no, it's a consequence of varied exchange rates. There's a CBN trying to explain that. And lawmakers to probe Army, Police, EFCC's unaudited accounts that COVID-19 has attacked our revenue sources. Federal government is saying this. All right, Leadership newspaper is the next one we're looking at now. Proprietors, teachers lament continued closure of schools. Okay, this is really an interesting story. Says federal government must take over payment of their salaries or allow them return to classrooms. And the report also says 1.1 million new jobs are now jobless in 84,614 private schools as government loses 72 billion naira tax in 3 months. Just in 3 months, 1.1 million have become jobless in about 84,000 schools. All right, Ni will talk about this when we open discussions. Daily Times is next now. Daily Times says approves refund of 1.48 billion naira to Rivers, Cross River, Ondo, Bayelsa, Osun. Says COVID-19 has attacked its revenue sources. Okay, and basically saying states will no longer get refunds for repairing federal roads. That's the federal government saying that states. All right. Now from there, let's go to the national economy. National economy says post-COVID-19 digital competition in banking sector to intensify. All right, as customers yearn for more online transactions. Right, everyone has said that things will never remain the same again, and innovation and creativity will certainly come to the fore. That's the national economy. Daily Trust is next now, and the last one we're looking at, the Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust says Katsina peace deal with bandits collapses, and how they frustrated Masari's amnesty program, and flashback on peace deals and what government must do to get it right. Experts are trying to offer their expert advice in here. All right, let's go to the paper where we want to discuss the issue on the headlines, and that's the Leadership newspaper. Leadership newspaper. Leadership is saying proprietors, teachers lament continued closure of schools. Now, it's a difficult call to try to balance those who have to go back to work and let the economic activities continue and let people have food to eat, and the issue of the safety of children or students when they open, because they could be very vulnerable. How challenging is it a time to make such kind of decisions for government?
Yeah. Good morning once again, Mike. I think this is one of the most challenging times for teaching profession as it were. There is a popular palace in my language in my palace that says the reward of teacher is in heaven. There is no more time than now that the reward is now more in the higher heaven places, because you don't want to look at the hardship the private proprietors, the private school teachers are going through at the moment. A couple of them are forced to use their personal resources to send stuff to parents at home, and some parents look at it that this is more of us doing the teaching work than them doing it, and most parents are not willing to pay for the services being rendered. And I could remember speaking to a niece a couple of days ago, and she was telling me that for almost 3 months, she has not earned a dime. And it's been pretty difficult being a family woman. And I quite understand that. But we should not take away the fact that COVID is still killing. One of the things that I think we are not getting right in this country is the emotions on the part of our government. There is no doubt about it that things are very tough, especially for the proprietors, the school owners, and those that work in that sector at the moment. People are not being paid, parents are not paid, people are losing their job. Those ones that are even out of school, they are unable to even fend for their family. But notwithstanding, I think the government needs to now look at where is the palliative really necessary. I'm sure the government of every state, every country knows the number of registered private schools. And instead of us giving food to those children that may likely be infected with coronavirus, if schools are open, I don't think it will be too much for government to make provision for facilities that will ensure that they minimize the spread of the virus in school. And again, if the government are saying they are looking for poorest of the poor, I'm sure some categories of private school tutors will fall in that category. I begin to wonder how people are managing from March to April to May of not earning, and there is no possibility of earning in June. So I agree with them that it's a very tough time for them, and government is not doing anything at all. I'm saying it with every emphasis. Government is not doing anything at all to these schools. Even for public schools, luckily, government are paying their workers. But what about the parents of those kids that are working in private schools to send their words to public schools? How are they going to be fending for them? It's a pretty difficult time. And I think the best the government can do at the moment is to identify those private schools and try and see how they can bring succor to their doorstep. It's been done globally everywhere that people should fill form. What do you do and how are you surviving? There are statistics all over the world saying the number of unemployment, number of underemployed, number of unskilled laborers. I think the Nigerian government needs to rise up now. But notwithstanding this pandemic, we need to be re-echoing it to our people, say that this is real. I have a couple of people that are even 40s in a couple of days that I've had are dead. And these are close people that you know that in terms of their immunity, you begin to wonder what is happening. So,
all right, yeah. The point there is, do we give this responsibility to state governments? Because the point there is, education is basically on the concurrent list, legislative list, apart from government schools that are owned by government. Private schools are as they operate. Certainly, government also gets some level of taxes from them. So one would say that if they don't make money, government is also losing money. But at this time, how much more can state governments do in this regard, even with local governments?
So for every state, for every federal government has what they call UBEB, Universal Basic Education, and each state has created their own arm they call SUBEB, which is State Universal Basic Education Board. And you have various organizations like ANCOBs, like Head Teacher Associations of Primary and Secondary Schools, Proprietors Association of Nigeria, where they remit tax. You recall when this COVID started in the United States of America, and even I think in UK, they make some measure that if your tax is up to date, there is succor government is giving back to you. So I don't think it's too much if government looks at their books and look at what is the tax coming from these private institutions that are not forthcoming. If these taxes are not coming, they should know that a certain number of people are going to be affected. And we're asking, should federal government be involved, should state government be involved? I'm very aware that every state government is setting up their internal revenue agencies and they are chasing after every tax defaulters. So if state government can put effort in ensuring that the tax defaulters are looked after and these schools are remitting their tax, I think it is not too much for state government to also look at the issue of getting these people some relief. But again, you ask ourselves that what is the function of Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster? What is humanitarian about people being at home for 3 months not being paid, and you have a couple of guys that says in IDP you are giving them 20,000 naira, where people that are gainfully employed due to this pandemic are not looked after. So I think it is a two-edged sword. The state government have their role to play. If federal government is taking 56% or 52% of the total revenue of the country, they have a larger stake. The local government have a stake to pay. They are sitting there, and they are people that they are supposed to cater for. And the priority of every government is security of life and property and well-being of the citizen. So I don't think it's too much for Nigerian government at all tiers to look at the plight of all these.
Go to the Nigerian newspapers now, see what the headlines are across the country. I have with me on Skype analyst Obaniyi Akinwale. Nii, good morning. Nice to have you join me right now.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Great. Let's start with the news direct. States will no longer be paid for repairing roads. Rivers, others get 148 billion naira on federal government's road repair. This is a thing of concern. I'm sure Nii would like to talk about this when we open the discussions. Now, from there to Blueprint, now Senate queries CBN over unremitted $3.3 billion. No, it's a consequence of varied exchange rates. That's the CBN trying to explain. Lawmakers to probe Army please EFCC's unaudited accounts. COVID-19 has attacked our revenue sources. The federal government is saying this. All right. From the Blueprint, let's go to the Leadership newspaper. Proprietors, teachers lament continued closure of schools and say federal government must take over payments of their salaries or allow them return to classrooms. And that's a lot of pressure on the government right now. 1.1 million now jobless in 84,614 private schools as government loses 72 billion naira tax in 3 months. Okay, that's Leadership newspaper. Now the Daily Times is next. And it says states will no longer get refunds for repairing federal roads. The federal government bringing up this new stance and approves refunds of 148 billion naira to Rivers, Cross River, Ondo, Bayelsa, Osun. Says that COVID-19 has attacked all its revenue sources. Okay, that's what Daily Times is saying. It's part of what we're going to talk about shortly. Now, national economy is next now and is on post-COVID-19. Now, digital competition in banking sector to intensify as customers yearn for more online transactions. Okay, more online activity as it is now and less physical contact. That's what it is, the national economy. Now, Daily Trust. Daily Trust is the last one now. Katsina peace deal with bandits collapses. How the frustrated Masari's amnesty program. Flashback on peace deals and what government must do to get it right. Experts are offering their knowledge in here and advice. It's certainly a thing of concern. All right, Nii, let's start with the issue of the roads. The story on the front page of News Direct is on News Direct. Is also on Daily Times, where the federal government is saying that they will no longer be paying states. In fact, states should no longer be involved in conduct or carrying out projects for the federal government again and getting refunds. Now, everyone has said that the federal government is quite tasking because the country is broad and wide, and government to be able to meet all the demands of roads and other infrastructure within states is quite challenging. What do you make of this new stance?
I think I've said it on several fora that we are a country that we try to imbibe the culture of federal system from some climb, but we don't always try to copy to work. It's only in our country that the Federal Minister of Works in Abuja will be determining what route to tar in Mongon local government in Borno State or in Ife local government in Osun State. If we are to run a proper federal system, the center should be lighter, while the local tier level of the government should be heavier. You have a government where the federal government takes almost 52% of the entire revenue of the organization. You have a government where we have central pocket and every governor goes out in cap to go and collect money at the end of the month and try to determine what goes to their legislature and their judiciary, which is still in contention. You have a government whereby the state tries as much as possible to pocket the local government to create what they call a joint account. I don't think it seems right for federal government to be the one in charge of tarring roads. And that is why the Revenue Allocation and Fiscal Commission needs to look at how do we reallocate the funds. Federal government don't have any business tarring road in states. And state governments have no business saying they are tarring road for federal government. Are you done tarring the road within your state? The roads are divided into trunk A, trunk B, and trunk C, and nodal routes. Now, you find out that most of the trunk B roads are affected because trunk A roads are not available. You find out that the trunk C road seems not to exist because there are attention on trunk A road when trunk B roads are suffering. So if we want to practice what is called proper federalism, the issue of time road should not be what the government of Nigeria at this age and time be looking after 50 years of independence. If government is looking at doing 4th Milan Bridge for Lagos, finishing up on some major infrastructures on the bridges in the north, in the southeast, in the south-south, it is tenable. How do you explain that federal government is the one doing Lagos-Ibadan Express Road, Abuja-Kaduna Road, Kano-Maiduguri Road, when they are state government, when they are state resources? So for government to now be saying that they will not be paying state government is self-serving and it is a service to Nigerians. Let federal government do what is needful. If we are saying community policing, let us decentralize governance to the lowest ebb where people will be touched. My local government chairman in Ife, not local government of Osun State, we know the roles that are very important to the economy of the local government.
Yeah, so but Nee, let's see it from another perspective. Because the point there is, it is obvious what the impact that COVID-19 has had, because the federal government is given that as one of the reasons. Certainly, it can be understandable so that if you check everything that government has to do, and when they say that COVID-19 has impacted on all its sources of revenue, shouldn't one understand from that window?
Yeah. See, there is an adage in my village, I don't know how to put it in English now, but they said they are telling a man with the hunchback that his load is not straight. So the man said, you are looking at me from the top, but if you look at my back, you see that my back is not straight. It's a systemic problem. It's not about COVID. Any other thing will come. Pandemic will come. Natural disaster will come. It will happen. But if you have good system in place whereby the local government are up to their responsibilities, federal government is doing what is supposed to be federated, not federal government doing what they should do. You could imagine federal government putting boreholes in local government in this age and time, creating river basin authorities doing boreholes, senators sunken boreholes in their constituency. At this age and time, it is unheard of. Is this what is obtainable in other democracy? And that's why he said that COVID or no COVID, if we are asking for community policing, decentralizing, we must also ensure that the federated unit work as it's supposed to work globally. We must practice federalism the way federalism is being preached. We must ensure that the center is not too heavy. At the moment, the state government will still go hand in hand, because when you have a 36 state government, their total budget is not up to the budget of the entire country. So you ask yourself, a system whereby the central bank budget is almost more than the budget of the nation. So how do we get it right if we don't decentralize all these structures? If COVID go away, we have this problem.
Okay, so decentralization or restructuring or re-strategizing, whatever name is given, is what you call it. Thank you.